what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Televised Podcast. My name is Anna, and today I am not alone. I am joined by Eliana again, which is so wonderful. We're going to talk about Batwoman, all the things that happened at Fandome, which was really cool. So thank you for coming back.
Yeah, hi, it's great to be back. I love talking about Batwoman, and especially with you.
Well, thank you. So yesterday at Fandome was, I guess it wasn't yesterday, it was a couple days ago, but at Fandome, the panel was so fun. How did you feel just like overall about the panel itself?
Yeah, I mean, I actually spent the whole day watching countless panels and countless content. And I have to say the Batwoman one was probably my favorite. I just loved how the cast interacted and all the info we got, and everything that went on during it.
One thing that was really cool about it is they actually got to talk about season 1, which I really enjoyed because most of the time at like, if it was like San Diego Comic-Con, they wouldn't really talk much about the previous season. It's all about what's on to the next and promoting and, but they don't have anything really to promote a whole lot other than a couple bits of info. So they got to actually talk about season 1. Was there anything that you were happy to hear them talk about? I know like Megan talked about stuff, Rachel, Cameras.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice way to honor Kate Kane's journey, first of all, in the first season, and it was a great season. I mean, we've talked about it before, how much we loved that first season of Batwoman. So it was nice to hear them talk about it and with such fondness as well. And definitely with Megan, it was really nice to have her talk about Sophie and her entire journey. Because something that threw me off a little bit with her introduction, they introduced her as Kate Kane's love interest, and I was like, no, that's not just what she is. So I was really happy that she talked about how much it meant to her and how much she got it and she understood it. So yeah, I really liked that.
That was so nice. And then of course Cameras fully called out everybody when he said that we all just wanted Alice to burn everything down, which is true.
It's true. We want her to burn it down and then get redeemed. Yes. That's what we want.
It was just so funny because he was like, yeah, everybody was like an Alice warrior. And we're like, yeah, aren't you?
Yeah, well, it's funny because a lot of what we noticed, how he and like the rest of the cast talked about the first season, you can tell they were not just in tune with the show, but also with the fans. Yes. So because he knew about how we loved Alice and he knew that we were shipping Luke and Mary.
I know, that's one thing that I really love about the Batwoman cast in general, is that they are so interactive on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere. They're always looking at people's opinions, always like, I think that they're just like, they just genuinely seem to like love the show so much and be so excited about everything and about the fans and about everything, that it's just so endearing to watch them speak about what they did and then what they're gonna do going forward.
Yeah, and it definitely even translated on screen. Like you can tell they love it, and then the fans love it, and then they love that we love it, and it creates like a really nice community within the fandom itself as well, which is really special and kind of unique for CW shows.
Absolutely. You can say Supergirl. But one thing that also I liked about them talking about season 1 was Nicole talked like a little bit, which I really enjoyed, about how her seeing herself as an Asian woman on the show, like, and that representation, which that's one thing that I noticed immediately off the bat about Batwoman and Nancy Drew, the like 2 new shows from last season. They both included 2 Asian American women like as part of their main cast, and I thought that was really cool. And she was like, it was so nice for me to like be able to be a part of that family storyline. I liked hearing Nicole talk about that because it's just not a representation that we talk about a whole lot.
Yeah, whenever we talk about diversity on screen, it's usually the staple, like Black characters, gay characters, and not like the other races or even the other members of the LGBT community, like bisexual or pansexual or even asexual, like anything. And it's usually just those staple things. So I really enjoyed hearing her talk about that too.
It was just so nice. And Also, in the opening reel, they did not show a single frame of Miss Ruby Rose the whole time.
They didn't even mention her. Nothing. They didn't even say like, "Oh, we'll miss her next season." Nothing. Not even a name drop. Oh
I guess
man.
they really won't. They
I think the feeling's mutual.
yeah, I think, and it's
She's just having fun with Katie Lots now. It's
yeah,
okay.
whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're up to, but that was just so funny because it was literally like a shot of the empty suit sitting in the Batcave, and then it was like Luke,
Yes.
Mary, Alice, Sophie, everybody.
Even Jacob
Even
Kane
Jacob,
showed up,
even I
but
think they
no
showed
Kate.
Julia once or something, but it was just like not a single second sliver of Ruby Rose.
Yeah, maybe they were doing that because it's part of the mystery of Kate being
Yeah.
gone. All that's left is the suit.
She just left it.
She evaporated.
She got dusted. She got snapped.
Oh man. Thanos came over from Marvel.
But so obviously they talked about season 1 during this panel, but then like what, maybe not even 20, like 15 minutes into the panel, they finally brought in our new Batwoman, Javicia. How do you feel, kind of like first impressions? Because when we first talked about this, we were just like throwing names around. We didn't have a
Oh yeah. Well, not even just throwing names around. We were talking about the people who were yelling, "Pick me" on Twitter.
We were talking about all the desperate people who were trying to get internet clout to be Kate Kane.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I haven't seen any of her work, and this was pretty much my first impression of her, besides, a couple Twitter videos that she posted, but I kind of love her. I think she is charming and gorgeous, and she is super into the show. Like, she knew about the show. She clearly has watched it. She's into the genre. She was prepared. She was excited. I really like her.
Me too. I was so charmed by her. She's just so charming, and it was just so sweet how open the cast was and how like interactive they were with her. And then also, like you said, she talked about the show like in specifics, which was like unheard of. Because
Yeah.
half the time these people show up at Comic-Con and they're like, I binged the whole thing, and then they're like,
You're like, you
I know,
liar.
because they have no idea. They have
Yeah.
no clue.
No, but she does. And another thing that I really liked about her was that, okay, so she came in and she talked about some religious aspects in her life, and she's clearly very focused, and she also has this kind of military bratish background. And to me, those three things, just even though it's not Judaism as a religion, but the religious aspect, the focus and determination, and the military background, it reminds me of Kate Kane, like comic book Kate Kane. Like, she is just the essence of who Batwoman Batwoman is, and who she is always supposed to be, whether Brian or Kate. So that I don't know, that gave me some sort of comfort with Kate not coming back if she doesn't come back,
Yeah.
even though I think she will, but that's giving me the comfort for now that Javicia clearly is stepping into this role, and she already is who Batwoman is.
Yeah, and that's what's so nice too, is that you can like genuinely tell that she has a passion not only for like the content of the show, and as well as like passion in her own life, like you said, in her religion. Also, she's passionate about like being super fit and like looking the part, which is something that they talked about in like her Muay Thai.
As Caroline said, you had me at tire flip. You can tell she's been working for this with her Muay Thai and just all of that exercise. She can do it.
I know, it's so nice too, because obviously, I mean, Ruby was like, I mean, she was like kind of a stick figure, but I mean, that's okay. And she
not to harp on like body image stuff, but yes.
And she clearly, like, I mean, she is like has a stunt background, so that was like really cool. But at the same time, I feel like her physicality, Javicia's physicality, and the way that she looks kind of lends itself more to her like street kid character that they ended up talking about later in the panel, because they say that she comes from like this, like, the rough end of Gotham, and like this side of Gotham that we wouldn't normally see, because Kate came from like the Silver Spoon side of Gotham, so it made sense
Yeah.
that she didn't necessarily like look, like rough and tough or whatever, but this kind of like lends itself to Ryan's character, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and it lends it more to a superhero without powers too, because Kara and Barry, they have superpowers, and I know this was a thing Grant talked about not having the physique as Oliver, but he's talked about how it works because Barry has super
Yeah.
speed and he can do all things, but Oliver, he has no powers. Like he's got to be kind of beefy, or else what is he doing fighting in the streets?
Exactly.
So so it really works for Batwoman.
Yeah, and that was so cool. And then during the panel, we also heard from not only Caroline, the executive producer, but we also heard from Sarah Schechter, I think is her last name, who works on like literally all of those damn CW shows with Greg Berlanti. But they were talking about the casting of Javicia, and that was really nice because they kind of said similar things to kind of what you were saying, where on their first like look at her tape, they were like, yeah, she's like Batwoman. She is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really nice to kind of hear that too, because I think, as audience members, we were all very frazzled about first not having Kate recast and then having a whole new character and being like, well, who's going to take up this mantle? It's nice to kind of have like a behind the scenes glance at what they were doing, kind of like how they chose her and how confident they are in choosing her.
Yeah. And that it's so reassuring, because I talked about this before, that this panel had like, Batwoman itself had an uphill battle at DC Fandome to face, because they had to convince people who loved season 1, people who loved Kate Kane, people who loved the rest of the cast and were kind of like, what are they going to do, like we talked about before. And I think that they did it. They pushed this boulder like up the hill and they got it there.
They totally did. Yeah, they really succeeded. I mean, me personally, I've been pretty upset about the loss of Kate Kane, not even just as a character, but like as what she meant for the Jewish and the gay community. Like she was a historic comic books figure when they rebirthed her in 52. So yeah, they got me. Like I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to see Javicia too. They won that uphill battle for me already.
Yeah, they totally won me over too. And one thing that they did a really good job of was getting everybody excited for the storylines of season 2, not only just for the show itself, but for each individual character, but for the overall show. It was really cool that Caroline was like, okay, 2 storylines. What happened to Kate, which I'm really excited about how they're going to explore what happened to Kate, and then also having to deal with this new hero of Ryan and how she is going to battle not only the system, but also kind of the Bat team to like try and become a hero, but also like within herself becoming a hero and reconciling that. And that's really cool to hear.
Yeah. And I think the fact that Kate Kane's disappearance is one of the central storylines and it's like a big mystery, like it makes me think of Pretty Little Liars almost, because they always had these like big mysteries, but they never like panned out. You never knew anything. But with Batwoman, every little arc and every kind of mystery that we had in the first season, it all panned out, and we found everything out, and it all worked pretty seamlessly. So I don't think it's going to be a fruitless mystery. Like I have confidence that we will find out what happened to Kate Kane and that she's going to be recast and come back.
I have that feeling as well. I definitely, and I thought this kind of from the get-go, from the moment that Caroline released that statement that was like, we're not killing Kate Kane, don't worry about it. Maybe she's just a liar, but also
I mean, we don't trust these CW writers, do we?
But you know what? I like Caroline, so I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
True. She's not, on Supergirl or anything.
She's not Jason Rothenberg, even though we like him now because he killed Bellman.
Do we like him? Is Lexa really coming back?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
But with Kate's like disappearance, I think, like you said, I think it would be a missed opportunity for them to not
Mm,
bring her back, even if it's like
yeah.
down the road, last shot of season 2, if that's like if it's
Mm.
Kate Kane like with a new face or something, like if it's Wallace Day and it's Kate Kane, you know?
Yes, already fan
Yep,
casting.
absolutely. And like, or even if it's into season 3 or something, I think
Mhm,
it would just be such a missed opportunity to like not tell that story, because then you can have like the contrast of like this, like, obviously like rich, spoiled, kind of person versus
mhm.
Ryan, who has grown up on the streets, but then they both become their own kind of heroes, and then they ultimately like
Yeah.
clash and they have to
Mhm.
either work
And
together.
probably even, like, vie for the title of who is Batwoman, because Kate is like, I was Batwoman first. I am Batwoman," but Ryan is probably be like, "Well, I picked up the pieces after you disappeared. I am also Batwoman,"
Yeah,
so just learning how to, like, work together and who is the leadership role in it, and, then maybe even bringing in Luke as Nightwing to complete a little Bat Fam thing going on,
please.
there's just so many rich possibilities that, they could have if they brought Kate back and we saw them interact.
Yeah, and I think it would
Mhm.
open a really interesting thing too, because it's been made clear that DC is very touchy with all of their bats. They don't like live action bats anywhere except for movies.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so they would never let them do Batgirl, never,
No.
and probably never let them do, obviously, I mean, Batman, no.
Well, Caroline mentioned that, how it was like a huge thing that she was able to have that like weird little shot of Batman in the opening scene of the first
Yeah.
episode, and then how she was actually able to use
Yeah,
Bruce, his face. Like she probably can't use him as Batman, but it's cool that she got to use like Bruce
yeah,
Wayne.
I think that too, and then from that, those kind of like not necessarily missed opportunities, but like those characters they
Mhm,
can't use. I think that if they did the two Batwoman thing, they could kind of like
mhm,
turn Ryan into a kind of like not necessarily Batgirl, but like maybe she gets a name change eventually. Like if something like that were to
mhm.
happen, I think it could be really cool, because then it could fill that void that Warner won't let them fill, like in like a Bat family
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm sure there's gotta be, like, something from the comics too if they didn't wanna make up a totally original title. Like, it makes me think of what they did with, um what was the name of that one villain who was kind of like the Joker, but she's actually, like, Joker's daughter or niece or something in
Oh,
comics, so
Dula Dent,
they
right?
couldn't. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, like, they couldn't use Joker, but they used, like, a more Batwoman specific other comics type, and it came off really well. Um, and that's another thing I like that Batwoman does. They use actual Batwoman
Yes,
villains,
Supergirl can't
instead
relate.
of Bat.
Sorry.
You knew where I was going with that. It's okay. That's yeah, that's where I was going with that. They use a lot of Superman's villains on Supergirl, and now they have a Superman show, and what are
There's
they going
nowhere
to do?
else to go.
There isn't. So it's Batwoman has always been very creative in their villains. So that's something I appreciate. So I feel like they can do that with Ryan's new character name if she needs one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could be really cool. And one thing too, now that we're kind of talking about Bruce and how he kind of played a part in the first season, it'll be kind of
Mhm.
interesting because Kate is now like Bruce was in the first season for Ryan, you know what I mean? Because he disappeared
Yeah.
and forced Kate to become Batwoman. Now Kate disappeared and is forcing Ryan to become Batwoman. And it kind of harkens back to what Caroline had said on the panel about destiny, and about
Mhm.
if, well, this is just me, but like if the bat brings about this like eternal misery, and also like, just you have to get away, like however Kate ends up disappearing. I think it'll be really interesting to see that theme.
Yeah, like if it's the fate of the heroes of Gotham to kind of suffer and vanish, which is
Yeah.
dark, but this show is dark
Yeah.
and it works really well. Um, And I think the point you brought about destiny, I really like that too, because I think when you use destiny as a concept in a realistic type of show instead of like one with like superpowers and aliens and stuff, it becomes a much more epic concept. You know, when it's not magic involved, when it's just human destiny. I think it's a really cool concept, and I feel like maybe they might pull that in. I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah, I think it could be really cool. And especially like you said, the show is so grounded in reality, even though like, you know, we have like crazy people like Hush and, you know, like
It's surgery, it's fine.
he is faceless. It's but like, you know, we have all of these like crazy things, but it all has like a grounded explanation and a grounded like reason, which I think will be really cool to have Ryan, because then she can almost be like more relatable in that way, because her as a character feels more grounded, because not everybody is Kate Kane, like with all the money and the influence and the fake realtor business and everything.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, she's part of that she's part of the people who the system of Gotham
Yeah.
hurt makes it very realistic too. It made me think of I don't know if you're a fan of the Dark Knight Batman movies, you know, the Christopher Nolan ones, but um, the way that Nolan kind of shifted the superhero genre to try and make Gotham touch on socioeconomic concerns in the real world and kind of really make it more authentic and dark. I feel like that's where like that's the vibe that Caroline might be going for with the new Batwoman season. But I think it's going to work even better because because in the Batman movies you have Batman who's this rich white dude with all this
Yeah.
money, and I guess he's fighting for little people, but he's not connected to
Yeah, he
them.
doesn't
Whereas
know.
you have yeah, whereas you have Ryan, who is a Black lesbian, someone who this system has hurt so deeply. It's just going to be so much more authentic, and I think it's going to go places that those Batman movies couldn't go. You
Yeah,
know?
and that's what's so cool, and that's what they ended up talking about in terms of character arcs for Ryan, is that she
Mhm.
does, you know, fight for the little guy. And one thing that I loved was she brought up Mary's clinic, like those kind of people
Mhm.
being the people that Ryan is fighting for. And I wonder too if that's going to bring us into a more kind of like in Birds of Prey, when we saw like the kind of not necessarily the darker side of Gotham, but more like the
Mhm.
more realistic too side of Gotham. Like Birds of Prey was really about like heroes who are not super great heroes, like not you know,
Yeah.
like I feel like Ryan, she'll be a bit more maybe a bit less forgiving. Like she might not have Kate's code in that way. Like it might be like Birds of Prey in that way where you know, like Huntress, she's out
Mhm.
for revenge. She's got this like vendetta
Yeah.
mission and she's a hero, but she also is like killing people all the time.
Well, like kind of like the new Pattinson's
Yes.
Batman, where he's all like dark and broody, and is, you know, he's like beating the guy in that trailer
Yes.
like over and over, and you see all the villains just being like, oh, what the heck? It's a darker type of villain with a different set of moral
Yeah.
code, and less restraint maybe.
Yeah. Which I
Um,
think will be really interesting and really cool, because Kate didn't have an explanation for if she got the shit beat out of her, and she had like bruises on her face or she had like cuts on her lip. And for someone like
mhm,
Ryan, maybe she might get a little bit more aggressive or be a bit like not necessarily like scrappier, but just like be in the fight
mhm.
more, because Kate
Yeah.
kind of was avoiding like getting hit because she doesn't have a way to explain to Jacob or to, you know, somebody who doesn't know that she's Batwoman, like, girl, why do you have a
Yeah.
black eye? You're a realtor.
Yeah, yeah. So it could be like a darker, more maybe more graphic, not in like a gore sense, but just maybe in like a blood sense, like with the Rain versus Supergirl fight, we
Yeah,
might get more kind of cinematic fight shots like that.
which will be really cool. And also, speaking of Mary and her clinic, unfortunately, Mary's gonna
Mhm.
go through it this season. She's gonna go
Yes.
through it.
Poor Mary. She lost, how much did she lose last
Her
season? She
mom,
lost her mom, her relationship with Jacob
pretty
pretty much
much.
because of the ending of the
Yeah,
season.
they're on
Um,
thin ice.
they're yeah. She spent the whole season trying to develop this sister relationship with
Yeah,
Kate, and now
now
she's
she's gone.
gone.
And then she
Um,
also kind of bonded with Beth before Beth was murdered.
yes, can't can't forget about poor
Oh
Beth.
god. Yeah, and so I think it'll be interesting to see how she deals with this loss of Kate because
Mhm.
that was like Kate was her connection to not only kind of her connection with Jacob a little bit because of their like sister dynamic, but also her connection to Luke and her connection to Alice and her connection who's
Mhm.
her only sister left, Alice, which is
Yeah.
dumb because she killed her
Well,
mom.
did they also talk about how Kate was the buffer
Oh
between
yeah.
Mary and Alice? So that'll be interesting to see if that gets a little more explosive because they were already
That fight scene.
not having it with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Actually, that'll be really interesting to see, especially how Alice works into the fold of the Bat team, because I feel like they can't keep
Mhm.
her separate like they did last year.
Yeah.
Because if she's separate, they don't really have that tie of Kate, like to connect them, even though they're far apart.
Mhm.
With this new Batwoman, I feel like they'd be like, well, we have bigger things to worry about. Let Alice just go be pissed somewhere else.
Yeah. She can go cut people's faces. We have bigger things
We
to
have
worry
other
about.
issues. This girl is running around in the suit and we don't know who she is.
Yeah. Well, and also they said Alice is going to be Pete.
Yes.
You know, what will Alice
Yeah,
do?
because that's a huge question because Alice spent the entire season either trying to get Kate to join her family again,
Mhm.
killing Mary's mom to get Kate to join her family again, or just trying to get revenge on Kate for what she did to her. And where do they go? Where does she go from here as a villain?
Mhm. Well, because now she's all alone
Mhm.
because she killed
Yeah,
Max and for her in honor of her revenge plot for Kate. But now with Kate gone, it's like she did that for nothing.
yeah.
It's just almost like more trauma to her.
It's not even almost, it is.
It is, yeah, it is.
She's not well.
She is
She's
not.
not. But one thing about Alice is that they said that she will have a really interesting storyline with a new villain, Sophia, who they mentioned,
Mhm.
I think, only twice last year. Once when Alice,
Yes, Julia mentioned
yeah,
her
Julie mentioned her, and then
and
once when
Alice,
Alice
yeah.
was in prison, and she was like, I
Mhm.
can't live like this. Best
Yes.
scene, but anyway. um, it'll be interesting to see because Alice is technically, as we know her right now, the villain, quote unquote. I say that
Mhm.
lightly because you all know I'm an Alice warrior.
Oh, we both are.
um, but to see her have a villain in Sophia, I wonder how that's going to
Mhm.
change her storyline throughout the season.
Yeah. Yeah, because it seems like Sophia is going to be like a real villain who has like dastardly awful intentions, whereas Alice, her intentions were more, I mean, they weren't like I want to destroy Gotham, you know, they were more just like I'll do anything and destroy anything in my path to get what I want with my
Mm-hmm.
family. So it is a different type of villain that they're setting up, which I'm very excited
Yeah,
for.
it's definitely cool because it was kind of interesting because for me, I think because they had what 3 or 4 more episodes left to film. Is that too much?
No,
Or
I think just one. I think it was just, was it just
I
one?
don't know.
Or was it three? Were they supposed to have 20 or
Oh, I
22?
don't know. I think it might have been 22 though.
Hmm.
Anyway,
I don't know. I thought it was 20, but I could be wrong. It's been a while.
well, either way, if they did have those like last episodes, I feel like they would
Mhm.
have not necessarily railroaded Sophia into the end, but I feel like it would have kind of
Mhm.
unfolded much quicker than I feel like it's actually going to unfold in this next season, which I think is going to
Yeah,
be
it might have
really
been a
cool.
Yeah, it might have been a bigger cliffhanger and had us all kind of like with more
Mhm.
hints, but I like this bigger sense of mystery where it's just like the seeds have been planted. Um, and I wonder if they're gonna also bring back all of their like little villains too from the first season, like Magpie, and I wonder if Raken's gonna
I
return. Like, what's
know.
gonna happen to
Her
her?
sister, Magpie's
Yeah.
sister. That was a crazy reveal, but yeah,
Such a
it
good plot
was
twist.
but I did enjoy that they brought them back throughout the first season, and I feel like they kind of, at least for me, I feel like Caroline knows what she's doing in that sense, where she's kind of building
Mhm.
this like strictly Batwoman rogues gallery kind of thing. Because Batman has,
Yes.
Batman has like the Joker and all of the other ones that he deals with.
The
Yeah,
Riddler,
the
the
Penguin,
Penguin. Yeah.
Mr.
Oh no,
Freeze.
that's Batman. My
I
bad.
don't know, whoever, but like they all have. He's got his own little Rolodex of villains that he goes through
Yeah.
constantly. And for
Yeah.
Batwoman, I feel like it's cool that she built that all up, and I think that she would be smart to keep them and go into the next season with like maybe Alice ends up working with one of them to try and defeat Sophia. Like, there's so many moving pieces that she could use
Mhm.
in terms of
Yeah, I mean, it's so clear that she has a
those.
plan.
Yes.
Like even like pre-crisis, post-crisis, everything seemed pretty planned out, and it had a nice succinct arc. It was great.
Yes, it was because other shows can't relate.
It's okay, we can
We
say
can say
Supergirl.
Supergirl. Because, I mean, it's no secret that Batwoman handled Crisis the best.
Oh, totally. Of all the Arrowverse shows, Batwoman really utilized what Crisis did in a powerful way, and but didn't make too much of it because they wanted to keep the show
Yes,
grounded. It was just really
I
masterfully
know.
done.
And then Supergirl went and erased all of their female characters' accomplishments. It's
Everything.
fine.
It was like misogyny 101.
It's fine. But so also, not only just talking about Alice, but then we talk about Sophie and how she will deal
Yes.
with Kate and her
Mhm.
disappearance. I feel like the way that they were kind of talking about, especially in comparison with like Mary and Sophie, that Sophie might be like less emotional and more like investigating, like on the charge, trying to find Kate, like being the
Yes.
leader of that. I think it'll be really interesting.
And I think it'll be interesting because as of now, she doesn't know that Kate was
Mhm.
Batwoman. So there's a lot to work with there because she might be looking for Batwoman. She might be looking for Kate. She might be looking into why there's a new Batwoman. And along the way, she could figure out that Kate was Batwoman. How is she going to react to that? And how is she going to react if, she finds out that Julia already knew and everybody else
Yeah,
already
all
knew
her
except
friends knew.
her? Yeah. Oh, Lena Luthor couldn't relate.
Oh. No, yeah, and that's what's so interesting about about Sophie and Julia's relationship is that Julia knew about Sophia. So if Sophia had anything to
Mhm.
do with Kate's disappearance, she already knew, and Luke
Yeah.
was already sketched out by Julia in the first place.
Julia becomes suspect number one, and I kind of want them to run with
Me
that.
too, because I think it would be so cool. Because in the end, like, she is a Pennyworth. We can't besmirch
Yeah,
Alfred's good name like that.
of course not. That would be horrible.
But if they did have that story where it's like Luke doesn't trust Julia, Kate did, but
Mhm.
she didn't get to tell him about Sophia and about what Julia knew. She just kind of said, "Oh, Julia's fine. Like it's okay. She's not sketchy."
But then she
I
disappeared. So then Luke is going to be like, was she fine?
know.
Should I have believed
I
that?
know.
And because like, and if she does link to Sophia, I think she'd be such a cool red herring
Yes.
because she's lied so much about where she worked, about kind of like what she's up to. She lied to Kate, she's lied to Sophie, she lied to Luke. She's really sketchy, and I want them to run with it. I want it to seem like she is the villain when she's not. You
Yeah.
know, I want it to see. I want it to seem like she is connected to Kate's disappearance for the wrong reasons, but maybe it's actually for the good reasons.
Yes. And I mean, one thing too that I think is so interesting that they have a cool opportunity to play with is that Sophie and Julia are obviously like a thing right now, like, and I like them
Mm-hmm.
personally. I
Yeah,
think they're cute.
me too. But that
Well,
more.
yeah. And I mean, I don't think that they were built to last by any means, but
Hmm.
it could be cool if Sophie finds out either, that Julia, like from Luke, that maybe like, oh, can you watch Julia? Because she might be involved in what happened to either Batwoman or Kate or however they present it. And she kind of
Yeah,
like is double crossing Julia in that way, like playing a investigator.
like a like an edgier, darker side of Sophie, where now she's kind of playing somebody else, which she hasn't really done
Yeah.
before. I mean, she kind of was a double agent and was going behind Jacob's back, but I don't know if we really cared about Jacob's feelings with that.
I definitely didn't. But yeah, it's kind of cool because I'm excited, especially to see Megan be able to do that. And because I know that she obviously, we saw that she's such a great actress, and we saw her
Mhm.
play soft Sophie a lot, like because she was dealing with so much with her coming out and all of that throughout the first season. I think it'd be
Mhm.
really cool if she gets to like not only kick some ass, but also just like get her hands dirty and like be kind of gritty and
Yes.
edgy.
Yeah, because we all know that shit happens when the detectives put away their badges for a
Oh,
bit. When they go, behind the law a bit, it always gets a little more
yes,
epic.
absolutely. And I wonder too if she'll even stay with the crows, because right now her and Julia are like kind of at the top of
Hmm.
under Jacob. And obviously they had that story last year where she left and she didn't know if she really even wanted to be a crow anymore, and she had this like identity crisis, like will she be loyal to the crows still, like even if she thinks Julie is involved, maybe she thinks like she's got plans with the crows then to do stuff because she's in a position of power now.
Yeah. Well, I think they might have to keep her with the crows just because then it's the one connection to Jacob
Oh
Kane because
yeah.
Kate's not
Because
there,
there's nothing
or else
else.
he because there's nothing else, or else he just becomes really insignificant and kind of just like the bad cop
Yeah,
guy,
you're
you
right.
know. So I think they might have to keep her there to just humanize him a
Oh
bit
yeah.
to keep him in the loop. But yeah, it would be cool to see her struggle more with that.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. And one thing that will be interesting too is Luke and his relationship with Ryan, because at first he had a hard enough time trusting Kate, who was Bruce's
Oh
cousin,
yeah.
to like let her
Mhm.
into the cave and mess with all of his toys and put on the suit and paint it red. you know.
Yeah, well, because it was his father's
Mhm.
legacy, and he has all those emotions about his father, and he also used Kate as an emotional crutch, when all those feelings kind of came out. So
Absolutely.
he's not just losing like Batwoman, he's also losing Kate as a friend. And who is this Ryan chick who's trying to replace
I
her?
know.
you know?
And I just wonder too, obviously the panel did such a good job of getting me really excited but also not answering literally any question that I have. So like
Yeah.
talking about the first episode, how does this even happen? How does Ryan even come into the fold? How does she get a suit? There
Hmm.
was these like bits of monologue that or like dialogue that were leaked that involved her pulling the suit off of Kate's dead body, which was horrible.
Yeah, that's a big
And I
no-go
don't
for
think that's
me.
gonna happen, obviously.
Yeah.
But it does like beg the question kind of like, how does she get the suit? How does she meet Luke? How does she get into the Batcave in the first place?
Yes, exactly. And how does she feel so comfortable to put on the suit and don, being the hero? Because again, with these heroes who don't actually have powers, they need to know how to
Mhm.
fight. Like, Sarah was an assassin, Ollie had all that training on the island, and Kate was in the military and had the ice guy in the igloo from from episode 1, whatever that was. She trained with Igloo Man.
Exactly, in the
um,
Arctic. Best training.
yes, in the Arctic. So I wonder like what kind of fighting experience does Ryan have? Because you can't just put on a bulletproof suit and go out and have your ass handed to you like Laurel when she tried to be Black Canary at
Yeah, and like
first.
James when he tried
Um,
to be Guardian, like that was
Oh, yeah.
It was Hurt City for both of them.
It was.
And like that's what's kind of cool too about Ryan is that because even in this first season, we saw that. Remember at Mary's clinic when a person literally wearing Batwoman cosplay came in after Kate had gotten hurt
Yes.
and couldn't be Batwoman or whatever had happened.
It was her
Oh yeah,
PTSD arc.
that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I wonder, like, how did Ryan like look at all these people and see them kind of being shot down? Because I think they very publicly were getting hurt. Like he's like,
Oh, totally. They were getting wheeled
yeah,
into the clinic by like multiple
yeah.
people. It was not a good
No, it
look.
was not. It was not. And I wonder how she kind of like got that drive. But the
Mhm.
original like character stuff, which they didn't even end up mentioning in the panel, the name Scarecrow, which was mentioned
Yeah.
originally to be tied to Ryan and how he was responsible for maybe killing her mom and kind of driving her
Mhm.
revenge. Like I wonder if that's even going to play a part because they didn't mention that in the whole thing.
No, that surprised me too. I mean, I really thought they were going to keep in line with that because it seemed like that was a huge part of why Ryan does become Batwoman. And it's more of her revenge goal to get revenge on him. And they did plant the seed by using like the scarecrow toxins in the first
Oh yeah.
season. So it wouldn't be out of left field to bring that villain in. But yeah, it surprised me too that he wasn't
Yeah,
mentioned.
and we haven't even gotten because we have gotten casting information for Sophia, which I didn't look up
Mm-hmm.
again. I should.
I know, we're so bad we don't actually know her name.
Hold on, I'll just look it up right now. Oh my god, never mind. I thought I could do it real quick.
It's okay. You can put it on the screen during the video.
Yeah, never mind. This lady was cast to be Sophia. Someone is playing her, but we don't have casting for Scarecrow yet.
Yeah.
So I even wonder if they're just keeping that on the down low because they don't necessarily announce everyone that they're casting for every single
Yeah.
season.
They didn't yeah, they didn't announce the Bruce casting. I
No.
think they're actually pretty good about keeping certain casting under
Yeah.
wraps. Um, yeah. So I yeah, I wonder if it's one of those under wraps
Yeah.
thing. And I wonder if they end up bringing Kate back, that might be an under wraps kind of casting
Oh,
too, to surprise us.
absolutely. Miss Wallace is gonna have to stay off of Twitter for a while.
Anna, you have your heart set.
Because she's so good. She's got the training. She's already in the DC family. She looks like Rachel Scarston. I could go on.
You're right. Oh, no, she checks all the
And she's
boxes. Like,
bi.
she's great.
She's in the community.
Mhm.
I'm here for it.
I am too, and I hope she is as well.
So one thing that they also talked about during the panel was a new suit for Ryan. I know we talked about how does she even find a bat suit. She's going to get a new
Mhm.
one. Kate's is not going to be used or maybe just altered or whatever. And one thing that they
Mhm.
talked about that I loved was that they are going to incorporate naturally textured hair for the wig, which we won't have to look
Yeah.
at the flat ironed monstrosity ever again.
It was so bad. It just looks so weird on the
It
cowl.
was so but I also don't know how you would do it another way, because it's so hard. Some
True.
comic things
I
just
mean,
don't
like,
translate.
yeah, exactly. Like in comic books, you can like draw it like it's kind of at like blowing in the wind, but it that can't really do that on a TV
No,
show.
you'd have to like spray paint it stiff. It couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, but I really like that, and I really like how they are looking at fan costume designs.
Yes.
Like, they are looking at the fan art, and taking that into account, and again, that goes back to how this show just communicates and engages with their fans in such an open and just good
Yes.
way, there's not much bad blood. Um,
I know. It was so nice to hear both um Caroline and Sarah talk about how they've like Javicia is like sending them fan art like look, this is what
mhm,
I want it to look like cuz Javicia even said that they hadn't had at the time of filming that, which probably was like 2 weeks ago. that she hadn't had a
Mhm.
fitting yet. I mean, they're filming now, so I hope
Yeah.
that she's had a fitting since then.
She better
She
have a
better have a
suit.
suit by now, but they hadn't had, like, a fitting yet even for it, so I thought that was really cool just that they were talking about it and being obviously very careful to, include her identity in the costume. And that
Mhm.
brings me to another point that they talked about, which was they already had the storyline of Batwoman coming out last year.
Mhm.
And it
Yes.
seemed like they didn't want to do that again.
Which is good. You shouldn't keep recycling
Yes.
stories. So I'm happy that they think like
Yeah,
that.
me too. And it made me wonder because Caroline said, well, she's going to like incorporate her whole identity into her costume. I wonder if they're going to do a pride flag cape.
Oh my god, I knew you were going to say that.
I just don't like black on the outside, but then like
Of course, you can't be the knight if there's no black
yeah,
cape on the
or
top.
like a muted and desaturated just like rainbow cape on the inside, or maybe not
Mhm.
even that bad. I don't know. There's just has to be something for them to not recycle that storyline because that also feels like something that Caroline is really passionate about, that people know that Batwoman is gay, like for
Yeah.
representation's sake, like in Gotham, not even just obviously on our televisions, but like in the world. So
Yeah. Well,
interesting.
I also took that as I took it in a different way because as a different type of coming out, I thought it was going to be more in line with James Olsen coming out as a black man as
Mm,
Guardian. So I thought it might be something like that and be able to like incorporate her identity in that way into Batwoman. And that might go along with the suit changes too, like with the natural hair.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I definitely think that it's probably more likely because I don't know how likely a rainbow cape is. But I also just
it would
it
be
would be
cool.
cool. I just don't know. I want them to kind of keep that element of Batwoman being out, I want them to
Yeah,
keep that, and I'm trying
because
to
that is
think.
really
Yeah.
it's part of her symbol, you
Yeah.
know? Like, Batman was one symbol in Gotham, and Kate Kane transformed Batwoman into just this completely different symbol, and we saw that with that one episode with
Yes.
Parker, the high schooler, and it showed how important that type of representation is. So I don't think that should be lost in any way.
Yeah, I know, me too. And I think it'll be really cool. One other thing that they kind of talked about was that Ryan will unite the Kane family, but also
Yeah.
that Ryan will cause unbelievable amounts of tension within the Kane family.
Oh, we can totally see that happening.
And I just wonder like how you think she's going to fit into this family because it's obviously a very broken family at this point. It's literally Mary,
Yeah.
Alice, and Jacob, and none of them
Mhm.
like each other.
Yeah, yeah. Some hate each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think just the concept of Kate disappearing is going to have those three characters, those three Kane family members feel very differently and probably feel a sense of loss in different ways of Kate disappearing. But the fact that then there's a new Batwoman, that's a lot to deal
Yeah.
with. And it might unite like it might actually unite Alice and Mary on a certain front to be like, hey, like we don't like this new Batwoman taking Kate's place, or it could unite them as like, hey, let's actually work with this Batwoman and find out where Kate is. There's all these possibilities, and you could even I don't know if you could even count Luke as technically part of the family at
Yeah.
this point too, and there's so much to work with there between him and Mary and the new Batwoman as well, and yeah, so there's a lot to work
Yeah,
with.
it's definitely gonna be really interesting because I just wonder if kind of like I talked about earlier about bringing Alice into, like, the
The
group.
Bat family
Yeah,
fold,
like,
yeah.
into the like, because I feel like she kind of has to be a part of the group, and I just wonder, like, how that tension between Mary and Alice that they even talked about during the panel, how
Mhm.
that will maybe you know, like you said, kind of either bring them together or maybe even like tear them apart even further because maybe they don't agree on, like, Alice is like, take this bitch down, like this, you know, this Batwoman, and Mary's like, no,
Yeah.
maybe she can help us find Kate, and then their true intentions
Yeah.
could come out. There's a lot to like think about. Maybe even Alice comes in with the intention or the front of saying that she wants to find Kate, but she just wants help
Mhm.
protecting herself from Sophia. You know, there might be like different motivations for each of the characters for working together, and it could cause like a lot of tension. And
Yeah, and because Kate isn't there to kind of like mediate that tension and kind of show not just the viewers, but you know, all the other characters kind of how Alice is feeling or how Mary is feeling. There's no one to be the go-between anymore. So if Ryan ends up sort of being a go-between, that would be
it really
interesting.
would, because she's not attached to these people. It could be really
No.
interesting because she could almost be like an audience insert in that way, like where she's
Mhm.
like, okay, listen guys, I don't know what you're fighting about,
Yeah.
but we need to do something about it. Like,
Yeah. Well, and also she has no sympathy for Alice. You know, now we have a Batwoman who does not have sympathy for one of Gotham's said
oh
villains.
no.
So what does that mean for Alice? She's
Death, oh no.
like that's not good.
It really is not good. But you know what though? And this is,
Like Alice might go to Mary for help because of
oh,
that. Like Batwoman might hunt down
that
Alice.
is true. Oh shit. And one thing too that they kind of, and this is a reach, absolutely. They talked about it. They teased it for like three different characters, well, two different characters on the panel with Alice.
Mhm.
Listen, I think Rachel just wants to play another gay character.
A little Tamsin redemption.
Absolutely. But she was like, you know, Sophie and Alice, and then she said something about Mary and Alice, and then I was thinking something about Ryan and Alice.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
think,
You know
I,
what? I'm here
yes, because
for
I
it.
think it could be so fun, especially because, like you said, there's a Batwoman now that doesn't have sympathy for Alice. But what if they wanted to
Mhm.
keep that sympathy up, and they're like, well, why don't we just have enemies to lovers?
Enemies to lovers? Oh my
Because
gosh.
then it would, because otherwise it's kind of like, well, how do you justify keeping Alice alive when she's done all of that stuff if Ryan
Mhm.
doesn't have this, like, you know, thing where she doesn't kill? Like, if she doesn't have that kind of code and she just goes around offing all these villains, how
Oh
do
my
you
god. The
justify?
sexual tension between an anti-hero and an anti-villain.
Literally, it's like, how does she justify keeping her alive except for like, if either Mary tells her to keep her alive, if that's something that Mary would
Mhm.
do, if Luke tells her to keep her alive, if that's something that Luke would do, or
Like in honor of Kate. I could see that
yeah,
happening.
or if Ryan has her own motivations for keeping Alice alive because she is hot.
And she's hot for Alice. I mean, could we blame
No,
her?
no, we
We
can't.
couldn't.
And that's something that I also thought about, is that there's all of the, because most of the, like, most of these characters have the same morality as Kate, you know, and
Mhm.
they all kind of like Luke especially was like really passionate about Batman's like code, and it was like a huge thing for Kate to tell Luke that she killed Cartwright.
And she had a whole arc of reconciling that within herself and having a little bit of PTSD as
Yeah, and
well.
I just wondered how they're gonna feel about Ryan if she is less less, yeah, like less has less empathy for people who do bad things, because I
Yeah.
feel like she's
Yeah.
seen the effect of people who do bad things, not only just like
Mhm.
bad villains or like, you know, villains who potentially killed her mom, but also like
Yeah.
people who do bad things in the sense of like the rich people of Gotham who use the like little people as their pawns, you know, like,
Oh, that's kind of like Arrow. You're throwing it
yeah.
back to first couple seasons of Arrow
Yeah,
where he just
with his
kind of
list.
killed, yeah, his list, and he kind of killed without remorse.
Yeah, and I wonder if the CW was even kind of wanting that, because obviously Arrow is gone, and they don't, I mean, Batwoman obviously was like already super edgy, I mean, super,
Oh yeah.
pushing the envelope for violence on the CW and also kind of gore on the CW. I found it very,
Yeah, it was gore and
yeah,
psychological. They really pushed both sides of darkness that you can work with in a TV
yeah,
show.
especially one that's like maybe TV 14, and
Well, it's the 10 p.m. slot, so they could get away with a little more, I think.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And, but I just wonder if they wanted that to replace Arrow, because Arrow's not coming back.
Yeah.
And also, people have been saying, like, oh, maybe they're using like Superman as their replacement for that like figurehead of the Arrowverse.
Oh no, that should not be the
But
case.
I don't think that that can even work, because we were talking about that
No,
before, where Superman and Lois is a family drama.
it really is. Oh man, like it's the fact that they like are bringing in Lana Lang and it's in Smallville and not in Metropolis, and it's about like the two teenage boys.
It's just unbelievable.
Who's Superman gonna fight? The bullies, the school bullies?
Literally. Oh no. And but so it kind of like begs the question, like, do they want Ryan to be the next, not necessarily the next Oliver Queen, but like kind of that same type of character on the CW that they obviously had a lot of
Yeah.
success with in season 1 of Arrow. And obviously,
Mhm.
well, and I think too, people didn't like Kate Kane towards the end of the season. People were like, Kate, we're mad at you.
Oh, we were mad at her the way she betrayed
We were
Alice.
so
Ooh,
mad.
that one hurt.
And I wonder if they're kind of like, well, maybe we can introduce them to a different kind of Batwoman, and maybe that'll be
Yeah.
something that people are interested in. It'll be interesting to see how much they change Ryan and how much they, I don't know, make her a different kind of character that maybe we've never seen before.
Yeah, yeah. So her own unique take on the hero and what it means to be a hero. And I feel like because this show actually does a really great job of having, the harder conversations, be it with like psychological trauma or murder or whatnot, I think they will probably go into the discussion of what actually makes a hero. Like Kate was the paragon of courage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So she was what it meant to be courageous, but it didn't necessarily define heroism, so that's a storyline that I think Ryan could have.
Yeah, me too. And one thing that I'm just really excited to see about this new season is seeing Gotham for for I don't know how to describe it. Like to see Gotham as a, maybe as a more of a character than it was in the first season, like the actual city itself. Because I think the background that Ryan comes from, she knows Gotham and she knows the underbelly of Gotham and she knows the darker sides of
Mm-hmm.
Gotham. And from the first season, you kind of didn't have that as much. Obviously, kind of like we talked about, where Kate was not necessarily in even that element of Gotham. And I think it can
Yeah,
be
and they didn't
cool.
even yeah, and they didn't really dive into Mary's clinic like stuff, because
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting plot line, and I always kind of wondered how she established herself
Mhm.
there, and how she earned the trust of the people there
Yeah,
too.
because
Um,
she's a socialite too. She's like an Instagram influencer.
yeah, so I mean, thinking as like somebody from that area of Gotham, like why would they even trust her? Um, so I think it would be cool to see that side of Gotham too, and show the clear divide between people like the Waynes and the Kanes, and the people that Ryan might run with.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I also wonder how interesting it's going to be when they have to cut and paste Chicago with Vancouver.
So much green
It's
screen.
gonna be so much, because I actually really enjoyed that, because obviously National City is Vancouver, Central City is Vancouver, Star City is Vancouver, the City of Light from the Hundreds, Vancouver,
The 100, yes, everything's
and
Vancouver.
Metropolis is Vancouver. but like Chicago is Gotham because it's just like darker and grittier and it just looks the part. I don't know. I mean, obviously Nolan.
Yeah, it's got that skyline and the alleys. I think the alleys play a big
Yeah.
role in like a Gotham
Oh,
feel. And
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know Vancouver very well, but I don't know if they have alleys like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I went to when they filmed Elseworlds in Chicago, I went and did like the that thing where you can like hold up a picture and then you take a picture like
A selfie
no,
stick?
I printed out screenshots from the episode and then I held it up in the place where the the scene was shot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
I'll put it on the screen for like YouTube. But I went to the alley where Cara, Barry, and Oliver first were in Elseworlds, and it was really sketchy. I should not have gone there on my own.
Oh, okay. You know, maybe it will work then.
But I definitely in Chicago like see that and see the grittiness. So I think it gives it a different feel. And obviously they also have the different aspect ratio that they use for Batwoman that I think separates it from the other CW shows. And I like that it has its own place.
Kind of artistic. It's artistic in a way. Like it's always directed very specifically. And I did like that.
It always looks so good. And so that begs the question, what do you want to see in season 2? Like what is like one thing that you would say, this is what I want to see right now in season 2 at some point? Be from,
you are putting me on the spot.
Be from like the comics, if you know, so if you have a storyline in mind with the characters, what do you want to see?
Okay. I'll say 2 things. All right. So the first point I want to make is the thing about Batwoman is I don't always feel myself thinking, I want to see this, I want to see this, because the show tends to give us what we want and things that we didn't know we wanted, but we get. You know, it's not like Supergirl where we're like, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see this, and then
they're like, here, Lex Luthor.
Yeah, it's here, have a William Day bringing you coffee instead. You know, so that's one thing about Batwoman is I'm never going, I want this. But if I had to think of something, I think it's really what I talked about a little bit earlier with Julia. I want her to be a red herring. I want them to up the sketchiness factor, and I want to see the whole Bat team maybe almost fall apart away from her in a kind of way, and then have a whole storyline where they're like, well, who can we trust? And then they're like, well, is Sophie working with Julia on this? Like, was it Julia who's getting rid of Kate? Is she tied to Sophia? And then, maybe Alice comes into that too, and she, I don't know, tries to get in between the Bat team and Julia and causes more mayhem. And it's just, yeah, because Julia wasn't mentioned on the panel. Like, why? And maybe it's because I cracked the code and she is the red herring, but and they don't spoil it. But that is what I want.
I can even see like exactly what you're saying being like a mid-season reveal, because we don't know exactly how many episodes they're gonna get this year for Batwoman, because obviously with COVID filming they don't want to push it. Right now I think Supergirl is marked for like 16, and I think the Flash,
they got the Legends,
maybe only
the Legends short stick.
Yeah, but the Flash did too. The Flash is only like scheduled for like 15 or 16.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Because I think they just don't want to push it. They're like, you know what, the least amount of time that we can spend, let's not get people infected, which I appreciate. And I like that they're obviously taking a lot of precautions with that.
Me too.
But I also see what you're saying being like in episode 8, if they had like 16, in episode 8 mid-season, big like bombshell reveal that like they spent this whole time like setting up Julia as like this villain, and then you could like they reveal like what happened or how Kate disappeared or whatever,
and how she's
like,
not the villain,
mid-season.
she actually helped Kate disappear in like a good way or something.
Yes, because listen, they love a good flashback on
and they're
Batwoman.
good at them. They're so good at them.
Yes, because Arrow, listen, as much as I liked Arrow, the flashbacks were so boring sometimes. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Sometimes they were inconsistent too, but they just didn't match up well.
And I'm like, I don't care. Oh my god, I just care about the present. But anyway, they do love a good
Yeah.
flashback on Batwoman, so I could totally see that happening. Where, and obviously Christina is who plays Julia. She is a part of the season. It's not like they just
Yeah,
got
she's
rid of
coming
her because
back.
yeah, she was seen on Rachel's Instagram
Mhm.
story the other day. Like, she's involved in the quarantine circle that they have going. So it's not like she's just disappeared as well.
Okay, so you put me on the spot. Now it's your turn. You have to tell us all what you want for the next season.
Ah, shit. All right. So one thing, if I am a human second, I am a Nightwing Luke
Yes.
advocate first. I am that first, I'm a human second. And so I really want that to happen so bad. And I mean, we talked about it earlier with the like Bat Fam concepts of, like them bringing on a hero family. And I feel like, as opposed to Supergirl,
Leave
sorry
me
to
open
shit on
to it's
Supergirl again, they could actually I feel like they actually could handle multiple heroes all at the same time while still having, Ryan be
Mhm.
the Batwoman, be like the figure, the main figure. But like on Supergirl, sometimes, they just don't know how to handle
Yeah.
Nia or Brainy or Alex in that way. I feel like in the last couple episodes
Mhm.
they actually did handle them very well because they split them up into teams, which is how
Yes.
they need to do it because it is now an ensemble show. Anyway, that's a different topic. But for Luke, I feel like he is going to be really similar
Mhm.
to Ryan, and they can have really similar heroic arcs throughout the season because obviously last year we saw a darker side of Luke that I wasn't really expecting, especially after, you see him in the pilot and he's like this nerdy tech guy that just wants to like
And he brings
protect
a lot
Bruce
of
Wayne
levity to the show as
and
well.
absolutely, he's like a not
Mhm.
necessarily comic relief, but he's like a lighter character, almost like Nia or Brainy
Mhm.
on Supergirl. And then in the last couple of episodes, he was threatening to blow up the parking lot with him and
Yes,
Kate
and that
and that guy
emotional
in it.
scene in the rain too, where he's yelling at that guy who he thinks killed his dad.
Yeah. And I feel like that moment in the parking lot, I mean, and then also in the rain, but then later in the parking lot was a moment of
Mhm.
vengeance and like revenge. He wanted to take revenge on the person who killed his dad, whether it be that one guy from the
Yeah.
rain or the guy in the parking lot who he later found out
Mhm.
was actually responsible. And that sounds very similar to what they've been pitching for Ryan in the
Yeah.
first place, like how she is driven by revenge towards Scarecrow for killing her mom, which we're still not sure is going to
Mhm.
be absolutely canon. But if it is, then they could have very similar arcs and very similar progressions throughout the season. And I think that'd be really cool if Ryan was learning to be a hero while Luke was also learning
Yeah.
to be a
And then
hero in that way too. A
it brings
different
the
kind
thing
of
is then
hero.
who is gonna be in the Batcave running it if they're both out, like,
Yeah.
it might not be able to be Mary because he wasn't very techy,
Yeah.
could they bring Parker back? Because she
No.
was fun, but, like, what is she gonna do? Do her, like, pre-calc homework from high school while she's also running missions with them? Like
Yeah. She's like, Luke, this computer system that you have in here, it's really great for cheating on my homework,
Yeah,
guy.
I'm just
Like
running all my homework equations instead of, like, focusing on if there's bad guys around the corner.
and I think that could be really cool because we also talked about that before how Caroline has brought in these characters
Mhm.
over and over again and it makes it feel like a world that we're familiar with instead of bringing on like different villains of the week
Yeah.
that don't ever
Or
come
just, like,
back.
all the other movies without
And
proper
that could be
introductions.
yeah, and so I think bringing if they ever did that, if they ever brought Parker back and had her in that in the Batcave and kind of doing that,
Mhm.
it would be really cool because again, it would harken back to those other episodes and obviously, I mean, it could be cool because she would be kind of a an insert for the all of Gotham, and to see her emotions because they just lost
Yeah.
their hero again. They just
Mhm.
lost Batman, and then Batwoman was
Yeah.
MIA for a minute, and now she's
And she
gone
has this personal
again.
connection to Kate and Batwoman as well because yeah,
Yeah,
because
to
she
Kate specifically. She knows where to go to ask the
exactly.
questions
Yeah,
of where
and
is
Kate was this
Batwoman.
big inspiration for her, both as a hero and just like as a person, and in Parker being comfortable with herself, and finally getting a girlfriend. So that's another level of loss for people who have lost Kate. Um,
Yeah. And it would be, I think it would just be really cool. I think they'd be kind of remiss to not bring her back
she was
because
fun. Yeah,
it does add that. Yeah, she was so fun. And it adds that like humanity of people not only miss Batwoman, but they also miss Kate. Because a lot of the time, like when a hero disappears, the whole city is like, where is Batwoman? No one's going to know that Kate the
yeah,
realtor is gone. Like, no one's
yeah.
really
No
going to
one
give a
really gave
shit.
a shit
Like,
when she was off with Igloo Man, right? So
exactly. And she definitely doesn't have the same showboatiness as
yeah.
Bruce ever did, like in all of his iterations, like Michael Keaton, where he
Yeah,
like throws
like
parties all
Oliver
the
Queen,
time. And
just even within the same universe. Yeah.
yep, yeah, I know. So it'll be super interesting. But I do think that Luke and Ryan could have a lot in common. And even if he doesn't become Nightwing or not Nightwing, Batwing this season. Did I call him
I think
Nightwing
you
earlier? I
yeah,
feel like I did.
fine.
I meant Batwing.
Yeah.
Nightwing is
Yes.
someone else that they
Nightwing
would
is
never
is
use
Dick
on
is
CW.
Dick
They
and
would
he's
never.
not coming. He is on
Oh, he's on
Titans, yes.
Titans. No, even if Luke didn't become Batwing, I think it would be cool to have them
Yeah.
connect on that level because I think they could, and I think that would be a really interesting way to
Mhm.
connect those two characters because there's not, they might not have a whole lot in common besides something like that, some
Yeah,
painful,
and it'll be
those
good to see
painful
them
moments.
bond too, because we got to see him and Kate bond a lot, and he might have his walls up with this new Batwoman. So that could be really really sweet to see as a character development point. Yeah.
It really could. It really could. I think that's it. That's all I have from the panel. It was 40 minutes long, and I think we doubled that in talking
Well,
about
there was a
it.
lot
But
to, a lot of good stuff to
no,
unpack.
absolutely no. It's so good. And sorry, one time I got a complaint comment on one of my videos that was like the recap shouldn't be longer than the actual episode.
What?
I'm like, sorry, I'm just talking
Do you
about
want a
it.
10-minute podcast? That's no fun.
That's no fun. Yeah. But yeah, I think that is all that I have for right now. Thank you so much for coming back. You're always so insightful about Batwoman because obviously you love the show and the comics, and that's really cool because as someone who hasn't read them, it's nice to have like somebody to talk about and have that knowledge as well.
Yeah.
And I also love that you're wearing your support
Oh,
positive LGBT
thank you. It's
representation
actually one
t-shirt.
of the ones from the original Klexicon. I didn't get to go, but my best friend did, so she got me one. So, I thought it was good to wear for this, even though y'all can't see it.
It is so fitting,
um,
especially because we mentioned earlier Lex is coming
yes,
back.
we
I
are
am speaking it into
manifesting it.
existence.
She will be back. Alexa is endgame.
It is. I mean, hey, they killed Bellamy. We're having a party. So, sorry, spoilers for the 100, but I know that everybody
Oh
who
no,
listens
we
does not
care. We're
care.
throwing a party. That's how we care. We're popping bottles.
Yes.
But no, for real, thank you for having me back. It's always so much fun, and
Yeah.
I love Batwoman, and I love talking to you. So it's great.
Yeah. I know. We'll have to have you back for something
Ooh,
Supergirl
I would
related
love
at some
that.
point because you also
I
love Supergirl. So,
I do.
well, as much
Yes,
as
as
one
much
can
as
love
we trash it
Supergirl.
together when we talk about Batwoman, we do really love the show. I want to make that clear.
I do really love Supergirl. I have like 6 posters of Supergirl in my room, and You can't
Yes,
see
they're
them,
there.
but
I
they're
mean,
there.
on my necklace, it's got one of those Haida headpieces, but also a little Supergirl, the El Maria crest. So I love him. I love
Yes.
her too.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And thank you all so much for listening. As always, if you are so inclined, you can like, share, uh, rate, subscribe. It would really be helpful if you could go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. That'd be really cool. I love, reading what people have to say. Let me know what you thought about some of our Batwoman theories and opinions in the comments below, especially if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, you can tweet me at televisedpod. I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say. I have all of Eliana's links in the description box and in the episode notes. If you would like to follow her on Twitter and Tumblr, I've got all of that linked. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.